Hi, I'm Randy Guy, County Commissioner President, St. Mary's County, Maryland, and you're listening to the Maryland Association of Counties Conduit Street Podcast, the source for news and notes on Maryland policy and politics.
Hello and welcome to the Conduit Street Podcast. This is Karrington Anderson from the Mako Policy Team, and today I'm joined by my colleague Dom Butchko and a special guest. Dom, welcome to the podcast.
Awesome, Karrington. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you and I have ever recorded a podcast together, so who knows how this is going to turn out.
It's going to be wild.
Well, luckily we have a great guest. So today we're diving into an ambitious new roadmap out of Howard County, the Path Towards Zero, a 5-year transformational plan to reach functional zero for homelessness. It's a huge undertaking with major implications for county governments, for human services, and for housing.
Awesome. And today we are joined by someone who is working at the center of all of this, Kelly Cimino. Awesome last name, by the way, who is the director of Howard County Department of Housing and Community Development. Kelly, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Dom. Good to be here. And thanks for inviting me to share about our new plan to end homelessness.
Absolutely. We are so glad that you're here. And before we dive into everything, why don't you give our listeners kind of a quick sense of what your department does? I know it's a lot, and maybe how all of that connects to housing and homelessness in Howard County.
Absolutely. Thank you. So about 18 months ago, County Executive Ball realigned the Division of Homeless Services under the Housing Department. This was a major change for us because this realignment allows the department to address the full spectrum of housing needs for our residents, from those experiencing housing instability to those looking for the ability to rent or buy a home here in the county, especially people who are of low and moderate income. Adding the Division of Homeless Services to our department also allows us to streamline funding decisions and maximize the use of very limited resources. The department's work focuses on providing resources and services to our residents with different needs and income levels.
That's great. And so for this plan, it's called the Path Towards Zero. I've heard you all talk about functional zero, both in the plan. It's been talked about in the press release from Howard County. Can you tell us what functional zero means and why you all are aiming for that target?
Sure. Functional zero means that our system has the capacity to address homelessness when residents present to us. That means that when someone says that they're facing eviction, or they're living in their car, or they have been displaced at work and they need a place to stay, that we can respond quickly, that we have enough resources in units, funding, case management, all the things that are necessary to help people get back on to the right path for stable housing.
And so, part of the whole kind of homelessness conversation is like the actual homes and market rate housing, affordable, et cetera. And Howard County, I think, you're one of the more well-off jurisdictions in the state. And so there is a little bit of an issue with the supply of affordable units. Can you talk a little bit about what the county is doing to kind of boost supply so that you have, different availability across all income levels?
Sure. So first of all, we know that homelessness is a housing problem. The demand for affordable units far outweighs the supply. The data in our Path Towards Zero plan shows 10,000 residents already living in Howard County earning less than $50,000 per year, vying for just 4,000 affordable units. Even with the county's moderate income housing unit program that requires developers of new housing to provide 10 to 15% of the units for low and moderate income households, our data shows that many households are doubled up and paying more than 50% of their income for rent.
That is an insane statistic. So you have 10,000 individuals who are at that, lower income threshold, and they're only vying for 4,000 units, and that 50% of income. So for our listeners who might not be super familiar with the housing space, we usually try to shoot for 30% area median income, 30% of what your paycheck is towards housing. If you're at 50%, I mean, that is pretty high. So tell us a little bit about, what your jurisdiction is doing then. Is it Is it just subsidized units? Is it a mandate for more affordability in the actual projects themselves? Like, what tools are available to you guys? Because we know other jurisdictions are debating this as well.
Right. So some of the tools that we've used recently, there are 5 projects in Columbia that are being redeveloped by Enterprise Community Development. And for all 5 of those projects, the county made significant investments of funding, but they also provided approval for payment in lieu of taxes or a pilot to help developers bring down the cost of housing and therefore charge less rents. We also, when we do a pilot, it also gives the developers the ability to overcome the closed schools test. Many of the schools here in our county are closed to new development, and that really constrains the ability to even build supply. So as we grant pilots, as we invest county dollars, and as we waive school requirements to rebuild housing where there already was, but allowing additional density, we are attacking the problem of short supply.
And so one more thing, Kelly, I'm curious what you guys are experiencing. How is the federal government right now kind of interplaying with the situation and what services and resources you have? Because we know there's been a lot of changes since the new administration came on in January. The housing space in particular, we've seen reductions in funding or changes in how certain funding can be applied. So as someone boots on the ground, kind of in it every day, what are you seeing and how is that impacting you?
The federal funding has provided a challenge that we have not seen before. The requirements to remove data points that we have collected for years and years, we're no longer able to collect. We do have in Howard County an Office of Human Rights and Equity. Their objective is to make sure that all residents in Howard County are treated fairly, that are offered opportunities to rent homes, to get jobs. When federal requirements of grant agreements affect those things, it's counterproductive to the county's policies and procedures about how we treat our residents. And therefore, it's making it very hard for the county to say, we do or don't want to take that federal funding.
Yeah, that's a important question, Dom, to bring up, because I think we're hearing really from every county is experiencing uncertainty at some level, but really across the board in a lot of different departments. So obviously, homelessness kind of touches multiple areas. Obviously, there's the housing side, but there's also this human services side. Dom does housing policy at MACO. I do health and human services. So from the human services side, prevention is huge. Ideally, avoiding a shelter stay altogether would be best. So what are the key prevention and diversion strategies in the plan? First of all, and second, what do you expect to see the biggest effects in reducing the inflow into homelessness?
Right. So actually, the third goal of the Path Towards Zero talks about diversion and prevention. And this is different from our previous 5-year plan because those were not as great a focus. They are now. This goal focuses on facilitating information sharing and collaboration across all programs of the homelessness response system, such as hospitals, healthcare systems, child welfare services, schools, libraries, faith communities. We all need to work together to promote housing problem solving, support self-resolution whenever possible. One example of a program that the county supports with funding is the Home Start program with Bridges to Housing Stability. Through this program, residents with children enrolled in the Howard County Public School system qualify for assistance to find housing, pay the security deposit, and the first month's rent. This so far has helped more than 50 families find affordable housing and avoid entering our homeless response system.
And I like that you all have really different partners across the board. I think it's great to have both the public, the private, the schools, everyone. That's really good.
I think you brought up a good point when you were talking about, it's the churches, it's the libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're dealing with homelessness, it's really that like the county government, the state can't handle this on its own, this situation.
Yep.
And there's a whole ecosystem of other players and, churches, nonprofits play a really big role. Can you just kind of touch broadly, like what does that ecosystem look like? And how much capacity does that kind of help you add as you're trying to solve this problem?
It's critical. We're a very small department. We're a department of 22, very small compared to other departments within the county. And so we rely on our partners. We rely on those who are part of our coalition to end homelessness. Without them, we can't solve the problem because they have resources, they have case management, they do funding drives, they own units. There are so many things that our nonprofit agencies bring to us, including data. The Community Action Council is instrumental in telling us what they're seeing as the greatest need, whether it be utility assistance, eviction prevention, food insecurity. Those data points help inform our system. So having partners that attend our monthly or bi-monthly Coalition to End Homelessness meetings, those who are on our board, those who are on our committees, bring us more than just data, but they bring us resources and connections to our residents.
Kelly, I think that's a really good point you brought up with, the partnership and partners. And, we're not all doing it alone. In the spirit of that kind of opened my mind up to my next question. The other stakeholder in this is landlords. And, how are we encouraging them to, help people who are coming out of homelessness and accept these new tenants? And, there might be some hesitation there. So can you talk a little bit about kind of what programs the county is offering or what you're doing to help landlords kind of be a strong pillar in addressing this issue?
Sure. So we do have a housing navigator manager within my department, and she works with property managers to educate them about our homeless response system and provide support to them to help them navigate to match clients with the right units. With that comes a landlord guarantee program. This program incentivizes landlords to rent to clients exiting homelessness with challenging rent histories and other housing barriers. It provides case management support. It helps tenants with maintaining a good rental history, but it also reimburses landlords if the tenant is evicted for any reason. So it has helped us to create a network of landlords that are willing to rent to clients who are leaving the homelessness response system. Also, we have a very good partner within Howard County is the Howard County Housing Commission. They are our housing authority. They own over 2,000 units here in Howard County. And we work with them regularly to match their vacancies with residents coming out of the system. We are also working with them to see if there can be a preference for people coming out of homelessness. So those are two things that we're doing to find units and also help residents become more successful once they are housed.
I think that landlord guarantee program is really interesting because it's kind of like an insurance program. And I'm sure that actually will lower the insurance cost of the landlord and kind of lower other expenses. And just by having that program, and hopefully you never need to use it, but just by its existence, you can lower costs naturally in the market. I think that's just a really innovative example of counties, using cool policy tools and doing the right thing. So cheers. That's very cool.
Great one to highlight. So want to talk about as well, so that for those residents entering shelter, those unhoused individuals, especially those who might have behavioral health needs, how are you all working to ensure there's a low barrier or maybe even a trauma-informed approach for them?
Right. So our coordinated entry system is critical in that because our team is reliant upon our partners. We have to know where to send particular residents, what services they need. So everyone enters through our single point of entry, which is the Grassroots hotline. And Grassroots actually has the Grassroots Crisis Intervention Center in Columbia. And many times residents can be referred there before they're even referred to shelter because they could be in crisis. They could be needing mental health assistance. They could be suffering from substance use disorder. And so having that Crisis Intervention Center as a initial point where people can get help right away and then prepare them for shelter or prepare them for another housing solution has been really critical. So having the right partners and just like the hospital, being a partner with us and not releasing someone from the hospital without a place to go has been instrumental in making a difference in who goes where and when. And those conversations all happen within our coordinated entry team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important for the county or the local health department to keep close in contact with hospitals for that exact reason. So it kind of sounds like, too, there's a lot to track here. There's a lot of goals. As you all are tracking progress towards that functional zero, which you defined earlier,
Right.
what metrics or milestones are you all watching most closely?
So before we embarked on the path towards zero, we asked the National Alliance to End Homelessness to come in and do an assessment of our system. That was very eye-opening for us. That assessment showed us the progress we've made over the last 5 years, but it also showed us that ending homelessness in Howard County is possible. Some of the metrics that we'll be following will be the number of clients that are diverted from entering the system, the number of new people entering the homeless response system, the number of days it takes to move a client into shelter, and then, of course, exits to permanent housing.
And so for residents too, is that something that they can stay engaged on if they're wanting to know and understand how homelessness is decreasing in the county?
Yes, our implementation plan actually states that we will post these metrics on the county's website or maybe an annual report. We haven't finalized all the specifics of the implementation plan, but yes, keeping the county informed. And it goes back to Dom's earlier point that we're a very affluent community. And a lot of people like to pretend that we don't have homeless or unsheltered individuals in our community, but we do. And there are circumstances that come up, again, loss of job, illness, different things that happen that can send someone who's been stable their entire lives into a crisis situation. And so it's important that we have a support system in place for them when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that I'm curious about, so this is a 5-year plan. A lot can happen or even change in 5 years, leadership, funding, community needs. And I mean, I wish that County Executive Ball could stay forever, but obviously that isn't happening either. So how do you all design the plan to stay adaptable for any changes that might take place?
Right. You're absolutely right. This is subject to the whims of the elected officials. The plan has been adopted. It is part of the housing department. We are very fortunate in the housing department that our funding comes from transfer tax. And so while that can be good and bad in a real estate market that's better or worse, that money cannot be allocated to any non-housing related activity. And so any funding that comes into the department from transfer tax and also one of our moderate income housing unit fee and lieu programs must stay within housing. And so that gives us the ability to budget long-term. We can make long-term projections based on our revenue in the past, and we can allocate funding to this plan without worrying that it's going to be pulled for some other purpose.
One of the many reasons that the transfer tax revenue is very important to county governments.
Oh, housing could not survive without it.
So like we talked before about the grassroots program, but we know that, you're also building a 20-room non-congregate shelter. Non-congregate is a specific, type of shelter and is different from a congregate one. So like break down that project, break down those terms. I'm very interested in this development.
Sure. So non-congregate means that each room will have a private bathroom. This is very different from a traditional shelter where there are communal bathrooms, 3 or 4 showers, 3 or 4 sinks, and people, they generally in the grassroots Freetown Road shelter, women and children live on the first floor and men live on the second floor. So there's no difficulty with someone being in the restroom and, a different person coming in. So that's been the model that we've had all along here in Howard County. And that grassroots shelter actually is opening December 1st with an additional expansion, taking the total number of beds at Freetown Road to 88. This is going to help us significantly this winter when we are trying to house people during Code Blue and cold weather shelter, because we will be able to use hoteling less and use the shelter space. The non-congregate shelter is only possible due to COVID. COVID gave us one-time funding that we can use to create this non-congregate shelter. While we are not, we don't ever want to have a COVID situation again, it did open up some opportunities that we have not had before. And so being able to take this funding and construct a non-congregate shelter is going to make a difference in our system. It's going to add capacity. It's going to add a different resource. This shelter will not be as long-term. Residents that enter will be able to find a safe place, be able to access resources, but can decide how long they stay. And that's going to be very different than our traditional shelter model. We are planning to break ground on that on December 3rd. There will be 20 rooms, maybe 22, still working on all the specifics. It is about 2 miles away from our Leola Dorsey Day Resource Center, where many homeless individuals go to get mail, do laundry, take showers, get medical care, all of those things. So it's going to be really close by so that they can access the resources at the Day Resource Center as well as at the non-congregate shelter. It is also on a bus line, and we'll have sidewalks. So this location kind of came about. We were looking for a location, but this one kind of came about from a individual who was planning to build a hotel there and decided to change their mind. And the county was able to secure it with that one-time federal Home American Rescue Plan funding.
So Kelly, you kind of jogged a question for me. So, you have different types of models. You were just talking about the what was it, the Loyola, or what was the name of
Leola Dorsey Day Resource Center. Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're talking about all the different services. We probably should have actually led with this question, but, to take a step back, can you break down what the demographics of the average homeless person that you're seeing, or homeless family, and there could be a litany of different causes there, but can you just provide some color for our listeners about the, segment of the community we're trying to serve, and why it's so important?
Sure. So we have very little homeless youth. I'll say that, which is good. We have very few veterans, which is good. The majority of the residents that come to, or clients that come to the shelter or come to the Leola Dorsey Day Resource Center are single men or single moms with kids. Those are the majority of the clients that we see. We absolutely have, again, at the Freetown Road Shelter, the second floor is all single men or single men with a child potentially. The first floor is single women or women and children. Predominantly our clients in shelter are African American, almost 50%. And that is not representative of the demographics here in Howard County. So they predominantly, more African Americans are experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity than white or Hispanic families. So, and not all of them are chronically homeless. We do, of course, have some chronically homeless, but it is generally more people who have had an unfortunate circumstance, loss of job, illness, something to that effect, that has led them to having housing instability.
And then can you walk through really quick? So I think this is really interesting, especially for the times that we're in right now, with all the uncertainty with the economy, federal budget, state budget, et cetera. You have the chronically homeless section, but then you have the bigger part in Howard County, I just lost my job or some negative event happened. Can you kind of just run through what supports are available if someone's listening to this, or if someone knows someone who just lost their job? What stuff does Howard County have aside from the shelters? What programs to help you get back on your feet?
Right. So our Community Action Council receives county funding to provide eviction prevention. That is critical. That goes back to that diversion. That goes back to prevention. They can provide funding to help someone pay 1 or 2 months rent so that they can stay put. That's critical. Community Action Council also has utility assistance. They can help them pay the gas and electric bill or the water bill. The department has foreclosure prevention funding that we use to help families who own their home but may have lost a job, especially in the federal government, that need help to stay in their homes. So we have some eviction prevention, we have utility assistance, we have foreclosure prevention. We also have, again, our entry point for the homeless services, which could help them with diversion or other prevention tactics.
So we did this a little backwards. We did our dessert first and our veggies last, but kind of with that,
Make away.
the make away. Love chocolate cake. But is there, with that in mind, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think, listeners should really know about, kind of cool programs or victories, or just anything that we didn't hit on yet?
Sure. So the main thing I wanted to share before we wrapped up was that we have the Coalition to End Homelessness Board, and the Coalition at Large. These are members of our community. These are members who helped us with the path towards zero. These are partnerships, organizations that care about residents in our community who are facing housing instability. We are always looking for members for our coalition at large, from the faith community, from the business community, from the school system. The superintendent of the schools remarks every year how many students are facing homelessness. They're couch surfing. Their families aren't together because of different reasons. There should be no child in Howard County that's homeless. We're too affluent to let that happen. So we encourage any organization, business, resident, any partnership that wants to come in, learn more about this plan, get involved, help us find resources, help us to implement the path towards zero so that we don't have this continuing, because we are building the capacity, but there will always be more need than there are resources. And finally, I want to say that with the groundbreaking of the new non-congregate shelter on December 3rd, it's just a really great time to highlight what we in Howard County are doing to serve these residents that need us.
Absolutely. And I want to say too, I'm really excited to hear all about this plan that you all have, and that's it's perfect for our winter Mako conference. We have someone from your team in Howard County to talk about how you all are supporting unhoused individuals, how counties across the state are protecting vulnerable populations, and all the different things that counties have going on. So I'm glad that the groundbreaking that you all are going to have is in December 3rd. Our conference is after that. So excited to hear an update on that as well. So really glad that you get to be on the podcast.
Right. And our website, we will continue to provide updates on the path towards zero. We want the community to know the progress that we're making. We want them to know where they can step up and help.
Kelly, it has been a thrill to have you on. Karrington, thank you very much for setting this up. And with that, again, this has been a great episode, and we look forward to cheering Howard County on as they do some cool stuff.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Dom. Thank you, Karrington.